Welcome, everybody. I'm Noreen Savage. This is Starting Out Bright. And tonight we're going to talk turkey. We are getting ready for the holidays. It's going to be a little bit different Zoom chat. And I have three special guests, Diana Ackerley, Deb Babcock, and Linda Steele, who are going to share from their expertise, sharing some of the things that they're doing for the holidays, whether it's Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving, or just giving thanks in your home, or, through the months of Christmas and other holidays coming up. So without further ado, I'm going to ask my first guest, Deb Babcock, to come on up. I'm going to pin her. Hi, Deb. Great to see you.
Good to see you.
Well, what are we doing tonight? Because this is Let's Talk Turkey, but you are going to be making a dish for us that goes with the turkey.
Right.
And do you want to talk about that first? Do you want to talk about the turkey itself? What do you want to do? Because we're talking a little bit about the turkey itself too.
Right. Well, we'll talk about the cranberry sauce that I'm making. I was just chopping up some frozen cherries that are going to go into the cranberry sauce. So chopping up frozen cherries is a lot easier to chop them up if they're thawed. Don't ever try to chop up a thawed cherry. Chop them up frozen. So what I have in here, just some fresh cranberries that you get. And I probably use maybe, this is what, an 8-ounce bag, 12-ounce bag. I took a little bit of cranberries out of here because I made Lori's cranberry orange muffins. So I didn't use a whole bag, but you can use a whole bag. And what you do is just simmer the cranberries first in like maybe a quarter cup of water and just kind of boil them and then simmer them for about 20 minutes. And it's kind of fun because they pop, they make a funny noise. So you'll say, what's that popping? I had my stove turned on and I forgot that I had it on. And it's like, what is that noise? And so the cranberries like pop a little bit. So you kind of cook them down. Then after about 20 minutes, then you add your other fruit. So I had one chopped apple and two of the little cuties. And I peeled them and got rid of all the little white, tag-alongs or whatever that are on here. So clean your segments good and chop up the segments in small pieces because you want everything kind of the same size. You don't want any kind of big chunkage with that. So you throw that in there, the frozen cherries. I used maybe a half a can or a small can of crushed pineapple. And those are the fruits that I did. So cranberry, apple, orange, frozen cherries, and pineapple. I think adding a lot of these foods really help. I mean, these fruits, especially the pineapple and the cherries, because your cranberries are very, very, very tart. I also added a little bit of vanilla and a little bit of cloves and one cinnamon stick. And then it just cooks down really thick. So I also, as it was cooking, I put in the peel of the orange, and that's going to give you some of the nice orange flavor and the orange oils. So make sure you take that out. And then the cinnamon stick is in here somewhere. I'll have to fish that out. But serve it in a real pretty bowl. I'll do that. So you kind of simmer this till it just cooks down. And there's your cranberry sauce. And if you want, there it is. There's the cinnamon stick. You don't want to serve that. Ooh, that would be good for tea. Maybe I'll save that for tea. So you can take a pretty little, this is an old-fashioned champagne glass of my mom's. And so this weighs 4.85. So you can technically have 6 ounces of fruit, or just call it good with that. But oh, you can smell all the different fruits. So this is your sugar-free berry sauce. So
Well, that looks fantastic. I think that actually looks better than the regular cranberry sauce. Yes, we have a lot of applause here. Watch for the pits and the cherries. Yes, what Lisa said, and you know what, I have to agree. I have had that happen when I've made bakes with cherries, and now I quarter all my cherries. I
yes.
actually almost cracked a tooth, and I'm like, okay. And it wasn't even so much about me, but I've been giving these like muffin bakes to family members and friends when they like, it's kind of like parting gifts now that I'll give them some. The last thing I want to hear that is that they cracked a tooth with a cherry. So I go ahead and cut them in quarters, and doing it frozen helps a lot, but that does look delicious. Now, you did say you have a special way of making your turkey. How do you do that?
I've been making turkey for years in these bags. I don't know if you've ever seen these, but they're by Reynolds, and they're turkey bags, and they're big enough to fit a turkey in here. And believe it or not, this goes in the oven, and you open it up, and you're supposed to put a tablespoon of flour in here, which I know none of us probably have flour around the house, but it's to prevent the bag from bursting. And then it has this twist tie that you know,
like it would melt.
yeah. No, but this is like no muss, no fuss. Yeah, you poke a hole in it.
Okay.
But this makes there's no mess, and your turkey still browns. I still do, the seasoning in and out inside the cavity. I'll put like maybe celery, onions, and underneath the skin, I separate the skin, and then I'll put maybe butter and some fresh herbs. And yeah, you literally put your turkey, right in the bag. And like a 16 to 20 pound turkey takes 2.25 to 2.5 hours only. So it lowers your cooking time actually too. And there's no mess, and it's super, super moist. And that's how I've always done it. Now this year, I'm just doing a turkey breast. And because it's only my husband and my daughter and I and my granddaughter, and I didn't want to get a huge turkey. And then when you think of it, it's like, oh, you got the legs. Nobody ever eats the legs. The wings are not, I don't know. And so I thought, I'm just going to get a turkey breast. So I got a small, it was a 6-pound turkey breast. And for only $12.50, I got this nice turkey breast, and I'm going to thaw that out. Now, the rule to thawing is it takes 1 day for every 5 pounds. Okay. So that's the rule of thawing out a turkey. So if you have a 16-pound turkey, you can start thawing tomorrow, because it's going to take about 4 days to thaw, and then another 2 days it still could be safe in your refrigerator. So you can thaw up to 6 days in advance for a 16-pound turkey. So you can put your turkey in your refrigerator tomorrow if you're having around a 16 pounds. So the rule is 1 day for every 5 pounds. So for my turkey breast, which is only 6 pounds, it's only going to take a day. Now, when I grew up, my mom always put the turkey in the sink with water because there was never room in the refrigerator. But you got to change that water every 30 minutes. Wow. And who's going to do that? Because you need to circulate the water and make sure it's just, I don't know if anybody still does that, but that's what my mom did. And a 16-pound turkey can take, 8 or 10 hours in the water in the sink. Mm-hmm. But you know, my mom stuffed the turkey and I still am alive. She put her turkey in the sink in the water and I'm still alive. So,
Just
you know,
barely.
you're not supposed to wash your turkey, all this kind of stuff, but I'm still alive today.
Thank goodness. Where would we be without you, Deb? Well, I tell you what, I'm going to come back to you because you also have some ideas about a 2-meal Thanksgiving. So we're going to come back to that. And
Perfect.
I am now, thanks so much, Deb. I'm now going to have Diana come up. And let's see. Here we go.
I'm here. Hi, everybody.
Yay.
Would you like me to, you want me to hitchhike on the turkey?
I
little
think
bit,
so. It's
or-
called the Battle of the Birds now.
Well, Deb did such a good job.
Yes.
I don't have too much to add, except I just happen to have a little 3-pound turkey breast here in my husband's office. Just happened to. Anyway, that's what we're doing too, Deb. So it's so cool. I used to, do the big bird, and I used to love brining it. And one of the things though with brining turkeys, a lot of them have sugar in the brine, but you still can do, if any of you used to and are concerned about, oh, can I still brine a turkey? And what brine is it's usually a mixture of like salt and sugar, but there's lots of recipes out there to not use sugar in a brine. But it's a lot of spices and orange and fruit. And so it just really, and salt. And what that does, it tenderizes the turkey. And yeah, it's an option. A lot of people like doing that. And especially since if we're maybe not going to be stuffing our turkey, it gives it a really good flavor. But this little turkey breast, it's a butter ball, and it's just about 3 pounds. And they have one that's plain and then one that's a savory herb. And the only thing, the savory herb one has a little bit of dextrose in it. It's not a huge amount. So I know if anybody's concerned about that, I'm just, giving that disclaimer, but they're really quick. You can cook them from a frozen state and it takes about 3.5 hours, or you can thaw it like you would a regular turkey and it takes about 2 hours. So however you want to do it, I'm planning on just cooking it in my toaster oven. So I have my big oven free for all my side dishes. So
and I want
that's
to point out that
fall.
Louise said, if you have wings and thighs, you can save those for soup. Which is a great idea too.
Or your turkey broth for, if you want to have, like a turkey flavored broth, you can make that ahead of time to use like with your, dressings or other dishes, your BLE compliant dressings.
Yes.
And other dishes.
Yes, absolutely. Now, you also have on your Get Healthy Grandma site, you have many, many recipes. And I was specifically asked to see if you could talk to us about the green bean casserole.
Absolutely, sure. So you are going to post, Deb's going to post the recipe on the site, but then I do have it on my Get Healthy Grandma. So one of the biggest questions, the whole dish is basically green beans, obviously, and you can use frozen or fresh. I mean, canned is fine, canned green beans, but really fresh or frozen is a little better. It gives, there's a little more body to the green beans anyway. So it's basically green beans, caramelized onions, mushrooms. There's a little bit of cream added in there to give it some of that creaminess that you would normally get from cream of mushroom soup. And then I do use arrowroot powder, which is, and I meant to get that out of my pantry, but to show you, but it should be by the McCormick Spices. It just comes in a little jar, and that is compliant. You can use that to do some thickening. The one thing that's different with arrowroot powder is that it will thicken at a lower temperature. So you don't have to have the mixture like boiling, like at a real rapid boil, like you do cornstarch to get it to thicken. So it's a real nice, easy thickener. And it doesn't make the dish really super thick like when you have the cream of mushroom soup. It just gives it a nice little kind of gravy to it. Now, the biggest question a lot of people asked me was about caramelizing onions.
Right.
And that, of course, will give you that flavor that you normally would have with those crunchy onions that you put on the traditional green bean casserole. So I have my little bowl of my caramelized onions. I don't know if you can see those.
Okay.
And really the trick, now you could look up, you could Google how do you cook the best caramelized onions. You could Google that and you'd get all sorts of different answers. But I'm just going to tell you how I do it. I slice my onions up. And one of the tricks is you don't need a lot of fat. You don't need a lot of oil. You only need about like a teaspoon for each onion. And I did like 2 big onions. So, you don't need a lot of fat. It's best to do it in either a cast iron pan or a stainless steel pan. You can do it in a nonstick pan, but you actually get a better caramelization in a cast iron or a stainless steel frying pan. So I usually just slice them up, start them out. You get the oil hot. You start them out on about a medium high temperature.
Mm-hmm.
And you just, you have to keep stirring during those first few minutes. And you get to a point, it takes about probably 5 minutes where they just start browning. And it's just the thing to do is to not do it too high, obviously. I know we want this process to go quickly, but that's not, quick isn't the name of the game here. So you have to just, really keep stirring it with a spatula until it just starts kind of browning. And then that's where you turn it down to like medium to between medium and low, and you put your salt in, and then you have to just stir it and check it about every 10 minutes. And it's kind of a little, you have to be careful because again, you don't want to burn it. So depending on your stove, you just have to get it to a temperature where it's just cooking and keeps browning it, but where you're not going to burn it. And you're probably going to be really tempted to stir it all the time, but the key is to let it cook. And and let it get brown, a little more brown, and then stir it a little bit. And it takes about 40 to 50 minutes. So what I did, like I'm not just standing at the stove for 50 minutes. I mean, I got it at a good temperature. I sat back, I was doing some stuff at my dining room table, just watching it, listening and smelling. So, and then I'd go and I'd stir it for a little bit. But the thing, of course, the caramelized onions do make those like Monday.
Okay.
And I do a big batch. I put caramelized onions in everything. When I have my choice of how to use my fat, especially at dinner, I'm going to my caramelized onions and I'm going to put them in, with my green beans, and I'm going to put them with my carrots, and I'm going to put them on my steak. And I'm going to,
so you have 1 teaspoon of oil basically per onion. Do you
per large onion? So, I do 3 large onions and a tablespoon of olive oil. And it says you can use butter. I prefer olive oil. I don't know, especially when you're using, I don't know, because butter can tend to burn. So,
Okay.
I just like using.
And do you cover them, Diana? Do you cover?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Keep it open. And like I said, just doing them ahead of time and just taking the time. Like I said, it takes up to 50 minutes, but you'll have these nice onions and you can use them on a lot of different things. So yeah.
Do you use white or what type of onion is being asked? Yellow onion?
I love you. You can use any onions, but the sweet ones like Vidalia, or if it's sweet, because, that's really the whole thing with caramelized onions is, and some people do add sugar and all that, but you don't have to because the natural sugars come out of the onion. And that's what gives it the flavor. And with the green bean casserole, it, really gives the green beans that flavor. I think it tastes like the real thing,
I can't wait to try it. I just can't wait.
Well, I hope you like it.
Great. I mean, what is the spread without a green bean casserole, right?
Exactly.
So anyway, thank you, Diana. Okay, our next guest, and love her here, is Linda Steele. Hi, Linda.
Hi, Noreen.
What do we have cooking today?
Well, I thought about holiday cooking like you asked me to, and the first great recipe that came to my mind that coincides with the way I like to eat now, which is free of flour and sugar, is a great recipe that I've used a lot. It was originally from our friend Natalie All. and it is for a pumpkin cheesecake. And anybody who knows me and knows how I cook and bake knows that I like to just tweak recipes a little bit. And so, of course, I've done this too. But I want to give full cred to Natalie. This can be found in probably 3 of her books that she's written. And one of them is Cooking with Joy, the first edition, and the other one is her holiday edition. So
Okay.
it's where the original recipes can be found.
Well, that sounds great. What are we going to see you do today? Are you
So-
taking us step by step?
Yes, ma'am. So this is the pumpkin cheesecake. This, I can give you a copy of the recipe as I make it if you want. And I like to make this recipe in 2 servings. I use a 9-inch pie plate. And I'm going to spray this with some nonstick spray over my sink so I don't, slide off the floor. I'll be right back.
Okay. Now that alone is a great idea. Just think about that. Just taking a little second to do it over the sink.
Yeah.
We do that sometimes when we're shaking over a cauliflower pizza, some salt and garlic salt or whatever. So that is cool. Okay. So you sprayed your dish.
9-inch pan and set that aside. I have my oven preheating at 350 degrees.
Okay.
So the first thing, adaptation that I did with Natalie's original recipe was to change up the crust. She has many recipes where she uses chickpeas or garbanzo beans
Okay.
as an ingredient. In this one, in the original version, it had a chickpea crust. I love chickpeas in many ways. I eat hummus every single day, pretty much, very few exceptions. And a lot of Natalie's recipes that are for things like cookies or blondies. It's really good. It's great. I love the texture and the taste. Whatever reason, I'm not a huge fan of chickpea crust. So I just went with a really simple crust. It's not large. It won't cover the bottom and the sides of the pie plate. It'll just cover the bottom and it's fairly thin. I just find it serves up better if it has a crust on it. This I would typically do for myself. I do for lunch. I am maintaining my weight right now, so I've added a grain serving to my lunch. So for me, this works well. If you were still trying to lose weight, you can always make this without the crust, which is going to give you an extra, in this batch, since it's a double batch, 2 ounces of banana or fruit. And so I would just mash that extra banana in the bowl with the filling ingredients, and just, you can bake it crustless. It just doesn't serve up quite as pretty out of the pie plate. So I'm just going to get started with that. We use banana as a sweetener, and it gives a lot of body to what we're doing. I have lovely bananas that are quite brown and spotty. The best banana for baking that you really want sweetness in are going to be really overripe and really well spotted, and this certainly is. So I have a trick here that I always do. I take the banana and I just use my fingertips and thumbs just to really squish the banana before I even pull it out of the peel. It makes it easier. It's less likely under my fork or whatever you use to mash it to slide right out of your dish. So that's just kind of a mad banana hack. So I'm going to turn on my scale. I like to weigh all of my ingredients. That's really precise. Just make sure it's set to 0. I'm going to have a little bowl here. I'm going to pop this banana in here. And what I'm looking for is actually only 2 ounces of banana. This one's way over. So I'm just going to remove some. And now I'm right at 2 ounces. I'm going to hang on to that banana and toss my peel. Give my hands a quick wipe because I have banana slipperiness. Okay. So you can pull your little bowl off of the scale if you want. It makes it easier to hold on to it. I just mash the banana up against the sides of the bowl. Try and get out any lumps. I give it a little kind of a whippy kind of a stir. And then I set that down. I can put my fork back in the bowl and I'm going to tear the scale so it goes back to 0. And then I'm going to use some quick oats. And so I'm going to add 2 ounces of these quick oats. The old fashioned are kind of coarse and they don't bake down as well for this purpose. So,
and again, that's because you're adding an extra grain, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to put this at 2 ounces of oats. just about there. There we go, 2 ounces. I'm gonna add some salt to this. I just grind it in. It's a couple of turns on that. I love cinnamon. I don't usually measure cinnamon. Natalie likes to say you measure things with your heart. I definitely measure cinnamon with my heart. I don't even usually bother with the little sprinkly end. I go straight to the one that dispenses a lot. If I had to guess, I'd probably say close to a teaspoon of cinnamon.
Okay.
And a little bit of nutmeg. Maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon or a pinch. This takes a little bit of stirring to get this to kind of come together. There's not a lot of banana in it. You just want to stir it until it's kind of, all of the oats are moistened and all of those spices are distributed through the mixture. It's pretty quick. And then we're going to put this in, you're going to watch, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put this in the bottom of our pie plate in a moment, and I'm just going to use the back of this fork to press it down on the bottom. So I kind of use the back of the fork even here just to mash it together. So it's kind of in a cohesive little blob stage.
Okay.
So I just tip that right into our pie plate. I'm going to pop this in the sink. And I'm just going to use the back of the fork just to press it down. And it is pretty thin and just gives a nice separation. Yeah, obviously, it adds just a little bit of flavor with all of that nice cinnamon and nutmeg. And just press it out across the bottom of that plate.
And I want to say while you're mashing, I had a comment from Natalie who's in the chat. Genius mashing it in the peel, the banana. And so cool to watch the baking queen in action. And there's a round of applause going on. You can't see it, but
I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
and while you're at it, and you have that container right there, is that a name brand kind of spray that you used for the pie plate?
This one, we have Costco in our area, or Sam's Club in some other areas of the country. This one, I can also get this like at my local Safeway or Walmart, I think. Chosen 100% pure avocado spray.
Okay.
So there's nothing in it but the avocado oil, and it just spritzes out really nicely. You can get sort of diffuser spritzers and use them at home and put olive oil in them, but they kind of just spit. They don't really spray.
Well, I'm glad to see that because I have seen that at Costco, but was afraid to buy it. So now I'll have a little more confidence.
I use this for sweet and savory things. It's especially good in things that really tend to want to stick, I find. And I'm going to use it for another recipe later today. And it works well for savory things too. So here's our crust. It's all just pressed down, fairly thin, but it fits in there. You just have to be determined and just tell it who's boss and say you are going to spread across the bottom of this entire plate.
So right now, all we have in there is banana, oatmeal, and the cinnamon and nutmeg.
And salt, a little bit of
and
salt. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the comment here is, does that work better than the olive spray then? The avocado spray, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know that I've really used the the olive oil spray. I just like this, and I think it's kind of heart healthy. And
okay.
It says here you can saute, grill, roast, and bake with it. So, and it also says when you cook at high temperatures, you lock in flavor. It can take the heat up to 500 degrees. And I think Natalie probably knows because she's the cooker baker extraordinaire. I think that olive oil is a little more temperature sensitive and can smoke at higher temperatures. So that's all I know.
Well, the main thing is if it's working for you, why change as long as it's available? So here we've got the crust. Now what's next?
So I'm going to pop this crust in the oven. It's going to bake for 9 to 10 minutes at 350, and then I'll pull it out, and I'm going to work on the filling ingredients for the rest of the cheesecake pie.
Okay,
Right,
sounds good. This is so fun. I've already learned. I got a new oil. I know how to smash up bananas better. I know how to sprinkle stuff with my heart.
I'm
love
I'm
it.
here
Okay.
to advance your education, Noreen, in every single way I can. All right, so we're going to go to the filling ingredients for this. I'm going to make sure that I have a fairly large bowl. I love these batter bowls. They have the little pouring spout and a handle. This is my big one. It's 2 quarts, and it's really nice for some recipes, especially if you like to batch cook things, which I do. I love cooking on the weekend, and then I have lots of meal things ready in my fridge. So this is a great little bowl. I have some smaller that are quart that work well, but this is a little more filling. So I'm going to make sure that this scale is tiered so it reads 0. And then I'm going to go on to the filling. So I always start, if I'm making something with banana, I always start with the banana because it can be the hardest one to get it to really mash down well and incorporate into the rest of the ingredients. So I always start with the banana. So for the filling, we're going to add now 10 ounces of banana to the bowl. So I'm going to put in our little saved blob. And then I'm just going to continue. This might take a couple more bananas, probably. So mashing, we're mashing, we're mashing.
We're mashing. And here's a comment. Someone else has the exact same bowl and loves it.
Great. It's a, I don't know if I can say a name brand, but it's been great. Since I found it, I wish I'd gotten 2. Just if this ever breaks, I'm going to be crying big alligator tears.
So it's 2 quart glass container and just really helps with the batch cooking. And I can see, 10 ounces of banana, that's probably 3 or 4 bananas, right?
I have about 2.5 medium bananas.
Okay.
Here, and I have a little bit left that I can use later today. So that's right at 10 ounces. So again, I'm going to go ahead and just mash, and I did the little pre-mash technique with my fingers and thumbs on the outside of the banana. Another trick, little hack that I have found with bananas, if you want to use them for baking, is you can get bananas that are not grass green, but if they still have any green on them at all, sometimes I forget, I get busy, I don't go to the store, I don't get bananas and let them sit on my counter long enough, is to just bruise a banana the same way. And then if you let them sit like for, even 12 to 24 hours, it just breaks down I don't know exactly what the wording would be, but it breaks down the banana. If you have a banana and it gets a bruise, it's going to
Like you punch it?
And yeah, you probably could if you have aggression and you just want to take it out on a piece of fruit. Yeah, absolutely. Punch it. But it just helps it to kind of bruise and get that kind of more brown, watery texture that you want from an overripe banana. So that's one way to kind of accelerate that breaking down process rather than just, here you are, banana, live a good life, I'll see you in 5 days. You can do that. So our banana is really mashed up. You can see it's quite squishy, liquidy. The next thing I'm going to add to this is whipped cream cheese. I'm going to add 2 ounces of whipped cream cheese, and this adds a really luscious kind of a little bit of texture and creaminess to this. Whipped cream cheese you can use cold right out of the fridge. You want to kind of check the label. This one has modified cornstarch, but it's down on the list a little bit. I make peace with it. I'm like, it's fine. I'm going to use it in a minimal amount. So I'm fine with that, even though we could consider that flour, I suppose. And if you don't have peace with using this, or if you don't like the additions, you can use regular cream cheese. You want to I would portion off 2 ounces and put it in a small dish, cover it, let it sit on the counter for probably an hour, and it'll mix in really well. I'm just going to grab a clean fork, and I'm going to clear my scale again to 1 ounce. I'm going to add 2 ounces, which looks like quite a lot because it's all whippy. So bear with me, it's hard to get this off of the fork. That's 1.5 ounces. And 2 more tenths. Please hold. Your cream cheese amount is very important to me. Your baker will be with you shortly. Please remain on the line. Okay, that is 2 ounces right there.
I told you all you were in for a treat.
I can't be too serious. That would be no fun. So I'm just going to whip this together with the banana. The whipped cream cheese has a little bit of fat in it. In this recipe, it's counted as a fat if you're counting, or you can just bake this and just enjoy it to your heart's content. I tend to count everything, so just how I am. So this will look still, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, probably can't see the detail. It looks a little bit curdly, but if it seems really well distributed, then that's good enough. It's going to bake down and it's going to mix well. Next thing I'm going to add is 2 eggs. And I do have a story to tell you about these eggs, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
So a friend at work told me that her son, who is I think 11, is selling eggs. So I bought this beautiful dozen eggs. She had posted a photo of her son on Facebook, and these are just lovely. And holding a chicken, and she said, my son has eggs for sale. They're $5 a dozen. If you're interested, comment or contact me. And I told her right away, I'm just getting low on eggs, so yes, I'll take a dozen eggs. But the picture of this beautiful chicken and her adorable son holding this chicken, she told me, oh, the chicken's name is Scarlett Johansson. So these are some of those eggs. They have multiple chickens, but these may or may not have been laid by Scarlett Johansson. And who can say that? I don't think that sentence has ever been said in the history of all time and all baking shows. So wanted you to know.
Wow, it is the first, and you heard it right here.
I just had to share. So I'm going to go ahead and crack the eggs right into this bowl here. Wish me luck. I like to use the back inside of a sharp knife. Don't use the sharp edge, but I use the back of it and try to hit the center. We'll see if Scarlett's eggs cracked like my store eggs. Seems to be working. So I don't weigh eggs. I'm going to use 2 here. And usually a large egg, if you're buying from the store, is what I would get. It works well in this recipe. So this egg has a little thinner shell. She warned me that the chickens needed some extra vitamins and that their shells would firm up. So not that I'm worried. But it's a little more dicey not getting any shell in there. But I think we did it. I'm going to rinse my hands and be right back.
Now, is this fun or what?
I'm having a great time.
And as Natalie said, if it's not fun, it's not worth doing.
Amen, sister. That's right. So I just give these a little whip just to break them up. They're gorgeous yolks, very beautiful, deep, deep yellow. All right. And next on our list is 4 ounces of Greek yogurt. I use the Open Nature from Safeway, but if you use Greek yogurt, it's thick, it's rich. I find that Greek yogurt doesn't have that twang, as Natalie likes to say, or that tanginess that can be so ill, in yogurt. Let me grab a baby spatula. And I'm going to clear my scale. We are going to use 4 ounces of this yogurt. This is a little watery. I'm going to pop that in the sink. Something about Greek yogurt is very finicky. It just wants to make a little watery residue on the top. So,
I'm glad you just said that, because I tend to just leave the water in and kind of just stir it. But
you absolutely can, because it was originally combined with the rest of the yogurt. There's 4 ounces. But it just will be thicker, a little bit thicker,
which is a good thing.
Just removes that little bit of wateriness. I'm going to just hang on to the spatula. You can just leave that. That's going to mix in really easily. 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, which gives you, kind of enhances that little bit of tanginess that you would get if you were doing a conventional cheesecake, and it would have that regular cream cheese or a lot of it in there. So you don't have to weigh this, but I'm just going to measure out I'm going to spray it across the counter, evidently. And then I'm going to measure out 2 tablespoons. Relatively carefully. Please bear with me. 1. And I love to buy lemon juice from Costco as well. It comes in a 2-pack, and it lasts for almost ever. So that's just one of those. And these things are really, really big, which is great. I mean, I do real baking too. So if you're making something lemony, you can just, throw this stuff around. It's pretty inexpensive, and I keep it in the fridge. Okay. So we have our banana, our cream cheese, our eggs, our yogurt, our lemon juice, and vanilla is another thing I measure with my heart. Also a huge one from Costco. I'm getting a little low, probably only 1/4 cup in there. I got to get this ordered because I can't run out of vanilla. So if I were measuring, I'd probably put in 1 or 2 teaspoons. I'm just going to put in something that looks like that.
You know where I have found a source for vanilla? Surprisingly at Menards in our area. They have Watkins vanilla.
I'm gonna grab my crust out of the oven.
Okay. This is like educational. I am loving it. I'm going to probably look at this video step by step in the future, just to do it exactly as Linda's doing it.
Okay, I'm gonna get the lemon juice off my counter here. Eventually, I'll probably set my crust down, but I want to make sure that I have something that's going to protect my counter on it.
And for those watching, this recipe is going to be included. So I'll be getting it up on the YouTube part. So no worries.
I need to work on the recipes that I gave, or the recipe that I gave to you, Noreen, because I think I've left an ingredient out. So I'm going to I'm going to turn off my timer that's annoying me. Okay. So we left off at vanilla. So cinnamon. This time I'm going to use the palm of my hand to measure out 2 teaspoons approximately. I like my pumpkin pie cheesecake. There's one pretty spicy. So there's about 2.
Wow. Never heard of that before.
Oh yeah. Natalie probably could measure in the palm of her hand too. It's a mad skill. So ginger, I add ginger. If you hate ginger, leave it out. This I do actually measure because ginger is one of those things that you either love or you hate. You don't want
You don't want it overpowering.
No,
Sure.
And it can take over. So 1/4 teaspoon of ginger. And then, you throw the lid on the floor because that's required and makes a nice, pleasant ringing sound. So I also make a pumpkin pie spice from a recipe that I got from Natalie, which I love. I'm just going to add a little sprink of that in here. Don't have to. It just bumps up. This has a couple other things in it.
Note to self, I got to get the pumpkin spice recipe too.
Yes, and I'm going to add
coming.
a tiny little dash of cloves. But again, they're kind of hot. If you don't like cloves, leave them out. Okay, so let me go through my recipe here. Cinnamon, ginger. So since this is pumpkin, I suppose I should actually add the pumpkin to it. So here's just your normal pumpkin pie. Not pumpkin pie, pumpkin puree. Don't get the pumpkin pie mix. It has sugar and other stuff we don't want. So I'm going to clear my scale.
Was this from Costco too?
They probably have it. This is just normal Libby from Safeway. So
I've gotten good pumpkin over at Trader Joe's too.
Ooh, I bet
I just bought some from Costco, but I haven't used it yet. So that was the first time from there. The Trader Joe's stuff I really like.
Mm-hmm.
No sugar in it at all.
Costco's pretty reliable. They get really good quality stuff. So I'm going to pop 8 ounces here.
Wow, that is looking like a pretty big batch.
It is. And when I eat this, I generally eat it for lunch, and I might have a few vegetables on the side, and I'm full. Because you eat half of that 9-inch, I slice it into 6 slices, and I eat 3. And it's filling. It's very filling. So that's all of our ingredients for the filling. I'm just going to give this a good thorough mix. Make sure all those spices doesn't have any streaks in it, and make sure that all of those spices are well distributed because there's a lot in there. And it just smells great. This one thing about this recipe is just makes the house smell amazing. Just makes your heart happy. Smell-o-vision is what we need and don't have. All right, so I'm going to grab my crust and put it down here, and I'm just going to pour all of this filling mix into the crust and then put it back in the oven. So here's our cute crust.
Nice.
It firms up quite well, and I'm just going to set that down. And I'm going to give this one more stir from the bottom, make certain everything seems to be combined really well. And when I sprayed the pan, the spray is still remaining around the border of that where the cheesecake mix is going to touch it. So you don't have to spray it again or anything like that. It's all ready to go. And this fills this pan plate really full.
And you have half of that?
Yes, ma'am. Mhm.
That's a lot.
It is. I love eating this way, and I'm a volume eater, and so that really is great. It's amazing how much real good food you can eat when you pull flour and sugar out of the equation. You get to eat quite a lot of food.
Now, one question that I have for you.
Yes.
You substituted oatmeal.
Yes.
Chickpeas would have been a
Protein.
protein, so
Mhm.
there is no protein in this.
So there is protein from the egg and the yogurt.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. Got it.
If you count what's in it, I would call it 3/4 of a protein because an egg is a half protein and the
Okay.
Greek yogurt is a quarter of a protein. So if you
Okay.
do protein, if you do a plan that calls for components like that, like I think the diabetic plan, you
Mhm.
kind of count, it would be 3/4 of a protein in that.
Okay.
You can just say, hey, this looks delicious. I'm going to make it and I'm going to eat it. And I'm just going to call it delicious.
Exactly. Well, the other thing though is with the recipe, you can actually go step by step, and whatever plan you're working with, you can do the math. I mean, it may take a few days, but you can do the math.
Absolutely. So I get this giant, we have a little store here that has bulk spices, and I found some really good nutmeg that was like $6 for this gigantic bottle that's 6 ounces. So I
Wow.
always sprinkle nutmeg on the top, which then releases a lot of delicious aroma into the air when it bakes. And it's just a little pop of nutmeg flavor. I really
Wow.
like nutmeg.
What a
So,
great idea.
and it's just super cute because this kind of a pie, it's not going to really brown on the top because it has no crust on the top. So it just makes it look cute. I can't really hold it up or it would be on the countertop.
Everybody's eyes are bugging out at this point.
Salivating is happening right now. Okay, I'm going to pop this in the oven and set my timer. So in 30 minutes, this lusciousness, you'll want to put it on a cooling rack, let it cool until it's, it can be a little bit warm. I cover it really tightly. I put plastic wrap right over the top of it, pop it in the fridge. It's best if you chill it overnight, probably. So it's kind of a something make ahead and then have it tomorrow.
Make it today, have it tomorrow. Where have I heard that before? Preparation 101.
Yeah, I love
Food
to
prep.
I work, so when I come home or, when I pack a lunch, I've taken that to lunch to work with me, for lunch to work with my vegetables, too. And people just look at me like, what are you eating today? Well, today I'm eating pumpkin cheesecake. And they're like, you're eating all of that? I'm like, yeah, it's half of a pie. And yes, I am. And yes, I don't care. I feel great. It tastes great. I'm full when I'm done. And it just carries me for hours.
Wow.
So the pumpkin can count, if you're counting ounces of vegetables, it's again 4 ounces of vegetables. And then the banana is going to be 6 ounces of banana. So, I count that as a serving of fruit. And there you go. So
Now, I see that Natalie, who is the first creator of this, and then you had tweaks, she noted in the chat, when it's completely chilled, this gets rid of the eggy taste. So if you leave it hot, it will be more of a custard flavor.
mhm.
If it's chilled the next day, it's going to have less custardy. Is that right? Do you notice any difference when you make it, Linda?
I've never eaten it. I wouldn't eat it warm. It just seems to be, pumpkin pie. I mean, if you think about pumpkin pie or cheesecake, you generally eat it chilled. So it's not as firm as a cheesecake. It more is a texture of like a pumpkin pie, like a regular pumpkin pie filling. So, and I'm kind of picky about texture. So if it were weird or slimy or tasted too eggy, I wouldn't like it. And I find all of that spice in there combined with the flavor of the pumpkin, it just tastes pumpkin pie-ish with that little bit of like I say, the lemon juice kind of gives you a little bit of tang. Doesn't make it sour because there's lots of banana and the banana is sweet, but it just gives you that kind of a flavor of cheesecake. So it's just been a real favorite. And like I say, when you asked me what I'd like to make for holidays, that came to mind because I love on Christmas or Thanksgiving to have that for lunch. And it's just like, okay, I can totally wait till dinner. I'm not starving when I'm doing food prep. And it just makes me happy.
That's fantastic. Okay. So what's next?
So That's it for that. When that comes out, if I get a chance, I can show you. But that's it. It just is in the oven for 30 minutes. And I see I forgot to set a timer, so I'm going to give us a 5-minute head start. This usually bakes for about 30 minutes, 25 to 30. When you pull it out, because the pie plate is warm, because it's been in the oven baking the crust, sometimes it can just be 25 minutes. But you want it to, when you pick it up, you can jiggle it. If the center jiggles, it's fine. Just put it in, let it cool. It's going to firm up. You don't want it squishy. You don't want it wiggling all the way to the outside edges, or it's going to be done. And you don't want underdone egg, because who wants a tummy ache when it's Christmas or Thanksgiving? I sure don't.
Well, Linda, thank you so much. This is fantastic. And we'll come back in a little minute when that's all done to show everybody what it turned out as. But thank you so much for the step-by-step preparation and for some great hints, mashing the banana, what kind of olive spray you use, all these kind of gems tucked in along the way. So thank you so much, Linda. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Noreen. It's just been my pleasure to do this with you today. And thank you, Natalie, for all your great help and questions. And for, like I say, you came up with this recipe. I'm just like, taking your stuff, and you're just the wind beneath my wings.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks, Linda. Take care.
Okay. So,
wow. Holy cow. That is amazing. That's beautiful.
Big, beautiful pie. So yeah, it just smells like pumpkin heaven, and nice nutmeg coming up out of it. So there you go.
If you were sharing that at a family feast, everyone would just love that. But you could, I don't know how they'd like it if you take half and they got to split the rest. So let's be considerate, everybody.
I'll be like, I got chipped. How come you have 3 pieces and I have this little slice? I'd make 2 or 3.
That's really beautiful. And the nutmeg makes a nice accent on it. It really does. Well, Linda, again, thanks for bringing us into your kitchen. Really appreciate it. And happy holidays. I'm going to quickly ask Deb to just bring us to talk just a little bit about what you do with a two meal holiday. Can you talk about that for a second, Deb?
Yes, you can do a 2-meal plan. I made a little card. I actually wrote this backwards so you could see it frontwards.
It's backwards, but
is it backwards? Is it backwards? Okay, well then this one wouldn't be backwards, right?
Right, that one's good.
You can read this?
Yes.
Okay. Well, meal 1 and meal 2. So the only difference between the two, of course, would be the meal 2 would have a grain.
Mm-hmm.
And so you split your vegetables like that.
Yeah.
And so around 10:30 in the morning, I would say I would have my first meal. And then around maybe 3:30, about 5 hours later, I guess, have your second meal. So some people do this all the time and they only have 2 meals, and that's how they break it up. So for holidays, you could do it that way. So it's really easy to take any kind of, breakfast bake that we all like, which is 1 grain, 1 protein, 1 fruit. Add your vegetables and then add another half protein. So with a half protein on a let's say a breakfast bake, you could add a fluff topping with 2 ounces of yogurt and a half ounce of peanut butter, make fluff. And then there's your extra protein right there, or 1 ounce of ricotta and nuts. So you can add any kind of fluff topping to any bake and make it 1.5 proteins, and then have vegetables on the side. Or another good one would be to have for this meal 1 in the morning, or brunch, I guess you'd call it. You could make a 2-egg omelet and add 1 ounce of cheese, and that would be 1.5 proteins right there. And then add your sauteed vegetables. So like spinach, onions, peppers, tomatoes. You could saute that in a half of tablespoon of butter. That would be half of your fat. Then you can use your other half of fat for like maybe butter on a piece of Ezekiel toast for your grain. Or you can have hash browns, or you could have sweet potatoes as your grain. So meal 2 would be the main meal that you would probably have with your family. And you can have 6 ounces of turkey. That's 1.5 ounces of protein. So that you'd have a lot. That's a nice serving of turkey. And then you can make veggie stuffing. Christy McCammon has a really good vegetable stuffing. Is basically how you would make stuffing in olden days. Saute your onions and celery and carrots, add your chicken broth, and then add cauliflower. And then your seasonings like poultry seasonings, sage, all that what you would normally do. And then that's your stuffing. Maybe have just 5 ounces of that, and then 5 ounces of maybe green beans or Brussels sprouts or whatever. You can, play around with the vegetables and mix them up, and then have the cranberry sauce, the 6 ounces of that. And that's a really nice meal. Or you can do 4 ounces of turkey and have like green beans with a yogurt cheese, cream cheese sauce, like Lori Lundgren's, cheese sauce. You can add a cheesy sauce to any kind of vegetable, and then that would give you your extra fat and an extra protein. So there's lots of ways that you can do it. And some people do, they pretend they're in maintenance for the day. With me, last year I did the 2-meal plan, but now this year that I'm in maintenance, it's just another day for me. I'm just so excited because I get to have a grain anyway at dinner. I'm going to have my 3 meals a day. I'm going to have a fruit, which I don't always have in maintenance, but I can. So to me, living on the side of maintenance, it's just so bliss because it's a normal meal for me. I'm not worried about this meal at all.
It's really something to strive for. I'm gonna pin Diana because she has a suggestion too for the
good
2-meal plan. What are you thinking, Diana?
I just wanted to just share what I did last year. So with our family, we kind of do a bunch of appetizers before, like early, and then we do the meal later. So what I did was, made compliant appetizers for myself. And I thought I had won the lottery because I was able to eat a dip with Triscuits. So I made like little cheese and meat roll-ups or little like veggie skewers with a dip, a yogurt dip. And so while everybody else is eating there, and a lot of people ate the ones I made, but it was really cool. So that's how I do it. I do an appetizer meal for my first, being able to use a grain, and then we do the meal. So that was just another suggestion.
Well, that's great. Well, I have you here. I'm going to ask the question because we're wrapping this up. And the Diana's appetizer platter, can we get that on the Starting Out Bright group, Diana? And obviously in your group too, the Get Healthy Grandma group.
Yeah, I have several like dips and things that I'll post those.
Yeah, let's have it in both places if you wouldn't mind. But I have a question for you because we're wrapping this up, and with the holidays coming up, and let's start with you, Diana. What would you say is one thing you're thankful for, whether it's BLE or anything?
You had put that out there, and I was thinking about it. And I'm really grateful for, of course, we're all grateful for our families and the blessings we're given. But I am grateful for second chances. I used to, in the past, beat myself up when I would fail. But I'm grateful for second chances. For God's grace and for. Not that I've done anything horrific, but I'm just saying on a daily basis, and I think that's the key to whether it's this program or life itself, and not getting too down on ourselves, is just knowing that, we're given second chances, and every day's a new day. I know that sounds kind of hokey, but every day is a new day to just do something different, start again, just put the past behind you. So second chances.
And that is true. We have a God of second chances, and by the grace of God, we're all here. Truly, that's how I feel. Thank you, Diana. And Deb, I'm going to just pose the same question to you. And Linda, yours is coming up. So think about that.
Oh, yeah, it's second chances is a good one, Diana. Because I gave myself that second chance of let me try one more thing. And after, Noreen, you've talked about 30 years of dieting. It's almost half my life I've been dieting. And I'm just so grateful that I found the one thing that has worked. And I've been living in this, I'm so grateful living in this bright size body now for 8 months. And it's a miracle. Nothing else has ever worked for me. And the freedom that I feel, the joy that I feel, it's just don't ever give up. And it's just so bliss on being on the side. So I'm grateful for this plan.
And your words, and I don't know that they were meant this way, but when you talked about, and Linda too, talking about this opportunity to have a maintenance piece, which is your program now. To me,
Right.
that was a huge encouragement to keep on going because I've been at it for over 3 years. I haven't reached maintenance yet. Sometimes I've put myself on maintenance for short times, whether I was sick or something, and I'm like, I just want to get healthier for a while and then, go back to weight loss. But, just that opportunity awaits. And that's an encouragement to me. I hope to everybody. And I see Linda posted what her great thanks is. And she said, I guess I'd have to say that I'm very thankful that God heard my desperate prayers and led me to this way of eating. It's a continuing journey. The peace and joy of living free of constant food thoughts and maintaining at a healthy weight is amazing. I am always grateful for good health, for family, my friends, for work that I find rewarding, and for this remarkable and supportive community. I've made so many good friends here. Taking better care of myself makes my life so satisfying in a way that excess food never could. Wow. Life is better than I ever imagined it could be. And I got to say, I am so grateful. I was at a thrift store this past week, and I have been there 3 times now. And I literally have gotten choked up going down the aisle as I look at, it's not in judgment of myself or anyone, but I just look at the clothes that I was wearing, at the size 3X and the 2X and all the way down the rack and then around the side. And it's just, it never fails to amaze me that I'm so blessed. And that, of course, as you said, Diane, like family and all of these amazing friends and people in our lives. But the second chance that, yes, take the chance and keep going with it. Even if you've been, off a couple of days or whatever, get back in, you still can do it and don't give up because, Deb, you've made it. I mean, Linda, but it is an ongoing thing. Even once you've made it, it's an ongoing thing. But the beauty part is we're all together to support each other. It's just so amazing. So with that, I am going to close right now. I just want to, again, thank you, Diana, Deb, and Linda, so graciously for adding your expertise in helping set us up for a good and successful holiday season. This will be the beginning of many times, I hope, that we'll do something like this. But I just thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And with that, I'm going to close as I do each week. Good night. Stay bright. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everybody. Oh, Linda, how would you like to play 3-Question Thursday?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Question number 1. In sugar-free, flour-free living, what have you found to be the easiest or the hardest to do?
Wow. Boy, that's a great question. Wow, I'd have to think hard about the hardest. I guess just the initial stopping sugar, because I was just really, I really identify as as like addicted to sugar, and my brain has no off switch with sugar. I was one of those people, you go to a party and there's like, oh, there's cake. Okay. Right before I started eating this way, before I heard about this way of eating, I went to a party, and I remember talking to my cousin, and she had been eating this way for a while, and she'd lost some weight. She was looking good and feeling great. And she said, once you give up sugar, after a while, you just don't miss it. And I'm like, well, that's just impossible. She says, I don't even crave it. And I'm like, that's all I crave all the time. So they happen to have these big slabs of cake. I mean, the Costco cake, have you ever gotten those big sheet?
Oh yeah, I've seen them. I haven't personally bought them, but yes.
Yeah, don't buy one. They'd be dangerous. But so, I used to be like, I love the cake, but the cake is like a vehicle to get the frosting into my mouth. So these huge 2-layer thing, it's about this high. That's about 4 inches, in case you can't tell how big my hand is. But and then it's 2 layers, and it's filled with frosting too. It's huge. And she sent me home with 4 big slabs on a big plate, and that I ate that first night, and I was stuffed leaving that party. And I think I ate 2 pieces that night, 2 pieces the next day. And the day after that, I went to eating sugar and flour free. So just overcoming, I guess the hardest was just overcoming the hurdle of thinking, I'm just not going to eat sugar anymore. I'm not going to have cookies. I'm not going to have cake. I'm not going to have pie, and the list just went on and on and on. Even my coffee was just loaded with sugar. And just the mental transition of that. And I think what really, really helped me, and still does to this day, is this is a 1 day at a time thing. I just picked a day and I said, tomorrow I'm just going to eat. I'm not going to eat flour or sugar. And I just said to myself, I've tried a billion plans, nothing else is stuck. I've been up and down the scale. I feel terrible. I was really abusing my body and just binging all the time. And I thought, I just want to try one more thing before I give up. And I thought, what if it doesn't work? And I thought, well, what if it does? Let's just try it. I'm going to do 1 meal. If I can get through a meal without sugar or flour, I'll try the next meal and see how that goes. So I think the hardest thing was just making that decision, but coming to the realization that I don't have to commit for the rest of my life to not eat sugar or flour. Just today, this is what I want. This meal, and you do it for a little while and you feel so much better that it gets really way easier than you could ever imagine. Because I remember binging from the time I was a little kid, probably 8 or 10 years old, and sugar was my thing. So that was kind of a hard transition to make. So that was hard. But probably the easiest now is that I love to cook. I love to bake, especially. And I've kind of come to know a lot of people that are really inventive, and they love to make up recipes. And I love to try them, and I love to put my own twist on them, but it's just so fun. It really scratches that itch for me of wanting to bake and be creative with food, and share it with other people. And even the sugar and flour free things that I make are really well received by a lot of people that I know. And that's just been really fun. Just really easy and fun. It was just like the comfort of me knowing that I don't have to give up my identity as somebody that loves to bake and share. I can still do that, and I can do it in a healthy way.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. So question number 2. So you expressed that, the baking part kind of turned into part of the easier part of this journey for you. And I know that you've lost a considerable amount of weight. Do you mind sharing how much that is? That's not the whole question.
No, I don't mind at all. I'm very out there with all of it. So my weight loss journey has taken a lot of twists and turns over the years. So my highest ever weight was 245 pounds. And I was in my mid-20s, really hard time for me, really just in a deep depression, you know, and I didn't recognize it as such then, but had really withdrawn and was depressed. And just all I wanted to do was just isolate and eat and eat and eat. And that's what I did. And so my weight climbed to 245. Up till that point, I had been 230 was my highest. That was what I weighed when I graduated high school. I know in junior high or middle school, as people call it now. I know I weighed over 200 pounds. I remember that really distinctly. And I remember being overweight from the time I was probably, again, about the same time that I started like binge eating or secretively eating, especially sugary things, from probably about 8 or 9, I would say. So 245 was my highest. I used a plan and went up and down and up and down and up and down over the years. And when I heard about eating this way and getting off of sugar and flour, I was 58 and I had already given up. I tried that plan again. I'd done as well as I could possibly do, starting at 220 pounds for a month. And I lost 1.5 pounds at the end of that month. And I have a doctor scale, so I know it's really accurate. And I was just so discouraged. And I thought, well, this is always before on a first month. If I was really vigilant, I had taken off at least 8 or 10 pounds. And when I saw 1.5 pounds, I thought, well, this is crazy. I'm not getting anywhere. So I heard about this way of eating and I started it at 58 and I lost 70 pounds in about 9 months, a little over 9 months. And then went on maintenance, started making maintenance additions. At one point, I got down to about 100. I weighed 134 pounds one day, and some people don't believe in that, but I am fairly big boned, long legs, long arms, kind of not, they look bigger when I put them here, but you know, my hands are, you know, my bones are big, my wrists are still, this is like bone, there's nothing but bone there, and they're pretty broad, you know, so I'm fairly big boned, and I loved how it felt. I felt light and I felt small, and I'd never felt either of those things before that way. But literally one night I came home, my driveway is kind of like a wind tunnel. My property slopes off, the wind tends to come right down my driveway, and I stepped out of my car. It was very windy and it almost blew me over for one thing. And the other thing was I rolled over in bed one night, same at that low weight, and my elbow hit my hip bone and it actually like hurt. Like, I think that's going to leave a bruise. I'm like, okay, this is probably too. So, and using like the French formula, as it's called, if anybody's familiar with that, that's what it told me to weigh at my height was 135, but that's pretty low. And it was just too skinny for me. And I was having a lot more people saying, are you well? Are you okay?
Oh, okay.
Really thin, you know? So I intentionally made some more maintenance additions. And my weight came back up, which was great, to about 137 or 138. And I maintained there for quite a while. And again, I felt good, still was getting complaints, you're too thin, blah, 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 but I felt really good there. My jeans fit well, and that's like a deal breaker or, you know, a deal maker for me. And then got back into some binging just on compliant food, on flour and sugar-free food. And I went, it slowly crept up over 2 years in maintenance, and I never ate sugar, I never ate flour, but just quantities were off. And I finally realized, oh, those binge tendencies are still with me, and it doesn't matter what I'm putting in my mouth. It's the action of just stuffing down my feelings. Anything was bothering me, I'd reach for food. And when I made the connection with, I need to take care of myself, I need to be in touch with what I'm thinking, what's bothering me mentally, emotionally, and even physically, just, you know, I'd get to the end of a day and I'd get home and all I wanted to do was just eat. And when I started to process that clearly and say, what are you feeling? Sometimes it was mental or an emotional thing, and I just needed to pray, or I needed to apologize to somebody, or somebody hurt my feelings, or who knows what, you know, I've got a big bill. How am I going to deal with that? I hadn't thought about it consciously, but it's still there, you know. But physical things like my feet have been freezing all day, you know, well, hello, turn the heat up and put some socks on, you know? Yeah. Or my back has been hurting all day, or my hip is really sore, you know, take some Advil, you know, stretch, do something. And make that transition, even now, with thoughts of wanting extra food. If I translate that into, what are you feeling? Sit down, make myself think. What are you feeling mentally, emotionally, or physically? And how can you make that better without excess food? It just completely just takes that binge urge away. And it's just
That's really fantastic, Linda. I think I could do that every night and really kind of do a, you know, a thermometer read. How high is it up on the thermometer? Like, how anxious am I getting? How, all the different triggers. I call it throat hunger, that I would just feel this in my throat, that sometimes I wanted to cry, sometimes I wanted to scream, just like, what is it that I'm holding right here? That's what it reminds me of, what you're saying, a kind of a barometer of what my day is, instead of just going to the food.
Yes, absolutely, Noreen. And just learning to do that inventory has been an absolute game changer. And that came from one of our members, Ed Pettit, who posted something. It was the red dot truth, which is
Right.
like, yeah, the map of the mall, for those of us old enough to remember what a mall is. The big red dot, you are here on the map. And I had to go, okay, what am I doing that's working? What am I doing that's not working? And what else? What else is it that's making that binge urge? And it's almost like you say, like turning that thermostat up until the heat is so high. The only way I can shut that down is to eat. It's just to pound in. And so that has been a real game changer. So anyway, my weight is the original question 25 minutes ago when you asked me. My weight went back up to 160 from that 137, 138 happy place. And I was just getting panic stricken. But when, yeah, I'm a Christian and I felt like the Lord, I was just praying desperately, like I was before I found this plan. I'm like, Lord, you just have to help me. I don't know what else to do. And he just brought me to that truth and helped me to work through that stuff. And it's ongoing, but my weight has come down. Most of the time my weight is 150. Occasionally, right now I'm 153, which is high for me right now. And it's just, I just need to kind of short my lines. I've been like, we're going to go on a road trip. I'm going to have, French fries, I know what it is and I know what it takes and I don't worry about the number so much. It's information. It's like, just get back to doing what you need to do. And it comes off, it fluctuates up and down, but I'm usually between 149 and 151 typically. So I don't know, I can't do math, but I think I'm down like 95 pounds most days from my high.
And you actually answered the second part remember when I said that's the first part. The second part was, have you had any like up and down? So that you actually answered before I even asked it. So here's the third question. This is for all the marbles, all the money. Okay. Linda, I want to take you back to the day before you began your program of no sugar, no flour, the confined quantities, all these things. Looking ahead of maybe the grief of what you felt of even you were not going to be able to have this or that or whatever, what would you say to the Linda of that day?
Oh, just try this. When I read the book, and that resounded with me, I thought, this woman gets me. It took me a long time to come to the place where I could say, I'm a food addict, and I still kind of struggle a little bit sometimes with that. Sounds a little too all-inclusive, but I can absolutely say that I have addictive tendencies toward food. That sugar and well, sugar in particular, probably flour. I don't test that theory. I don't have it. I don't miss it. But sugar, I know for me, is just like a wildfire with gasoline, and there is no way that I can have it and not be right back in that ditch, that bottomless pit of just, I can't control it. I can't find my way out. So now with all that said, I don't remember my original question to answer.
What would you say to that, Linda? Like maybe something that surprises you now even? I mean, yes, the weight is one thing, but is there anything else that has surprised you on this journey, or maybe non-scale victories or anything like that?
I think the most valuable thing that I've gained is just the peace in my brain, because for decades and decades, it was just that constant eat. This isn't enough. This is too much. You're on plan. You're off plan. You're gaining. You're not losing fast enough. You're working out until you're dead dog tired and your body hurts and you can't, I'm just running on an endless treadmill of just trying to toe that line. Right. And follow that plan. And yet that constant, big booming voice in my head, eat, it's not enough, eat, when can I eat again? What can I eat? How many points is this? If I work out an extra half an hour, can I have a cookie? Can I eat a hamburger with cheese on it and mayo? And,
Yeah.
that peace and quiet around food is priceless. Weight or no weight, on or off, that's a whole separate huge blessing. Huge blessing, and has made such a difference in my quality of life, just getting that weight off. But that peace in my brain, when I was back into the binging and the food was running the show and those thoughts, that's horrible. There's not room in your brain for anything else.
Yeah.
At that point. So
the peace is amazing. And Linda, I gotta tell you, you have been such a great friend through my journey. I still have one of your posts as on my desktop because your words have inspired me. And I just want to thank you. So thank you, my friend, and thank you for, sharing your culinary skills, all the tweaks in the recipes. And thank you for playing 3-Question Thursday. It's been a delight.
Thank you, Noreen. I love you, and I'm so thankful to know you. You just are such a blessing to all of us. And thank you for just doing these. I know it takes a lot of your time and a lot of your work, and you're so dedicated to it, and you're just so loved and appreciated. So thank you for the opportunity to share.
You're welcome. Thanks again. Thanks everybody for being here. Stay the course. Stay bright.